or is it Memorex? And the guy would go, I don't know.
You did a lot of drugs in the 60s, didn't you?
I took logic in college.
Oh, that explains it. I had a class in logic, too, in college. It's a philosophy elective.
So,
My instructor died the next semester. He was full-down alcoholic. He used to come in with a coffee cup drinking booze.
I had an alcoholic Orthodox Jewish professor teaching his theory of what it meant to be a modern day functioning religion. And it turned out that it was to be a drunk and be an Orthodox Jew.
This
That
was a
the
class?
answer. I took a class.
And you went religiously?
I learned the word exegesis, that for a religion to be good, it should constantly examine itself.
Talking to the mic, not the computer.
I'm trying to find where we are live so I can do my Facebook business.
By the way, this is pre-show rambling. I'm Tom Mongelli. This is Doug Max.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Could
Is
that be
us?
us?
That's us.
I'm going to wave hello and make sure. Okay. So I am going to share.
I think we should open the show by putting on a cardigan sweater and changing shoes. Except that would be the whole show for me, trying to get my shoes on. That's my version of aerobics. What the hell was that? Was that chickens clucking?
Ape.
An ape? I didn't know apes clucked.
Oh, that's funny.
So anyway, we're waiting for our time to start on Funny Talk with Mongelli and Max.
And I'm typing.
And Doug is typing. He's the techie guy in the duo.
Because I used to play saxophone.
He practiced safe sax.
You know, I was once in a marching band and I bang it, and it bangs into your
Oh
teeth.
yeah, that's not good.
Okay.
My brother, no, he played the drums in the marching band. But I have great blackmail pictures of my brother. He had this fluorescent turquoise jacket with epaulets. Very strange.
Your brother was black?
No, what are you talking about? He still is. No. So anyway, Funny Talk with Mongelli and Max, as you know by now.
Is incredibly funny.
It's incredibly funny. It's a show about nothing. No, it's a show honoring the old-time comics and some current comics. We've honored Lou Costello and Abbott Costello. We've honored Curly Howard of the Three Stooges. We attempted to honor Richard Pryor.
The Ritz Brothers.
The Ritz Brothers, Harry Ritz from the Ritz Brothers. And now, tonight, we have a special guest who's still out there doing his thing. He's been a comic for a really long time. Eddie Brill. If you don't know him, look him up. Find him on YouTube. Funny guy.
Or we're going to come and we're going to find you. 'Cause we're going to find out where you live.
And I'm going to sit on you. Crickets.
Who were you on? You were on something. You were on something until she yelled at you to lose. You were on something to lose
Don't bring
weight.
up my stupid jokes. I was on all the different diets. I've been on Fatkins, Waist Watchers, Overcheaters Anonymous. I was even on Jenny Craig till she yelled at me to get off.
Who's your straight man?
If you're straight, I'm in trouble.
I'm almost there.
What, straight? See, I could never be gay. I can't fit in the closet.
People have often in my life. I remember I lived in Texas, and people asked me if I was gay.
That's
and
strange.
I didn't want to tell them that I wasn't attracted to any of the women. If I wasn't giving off any signal that I was interested in, it was because of,
That's strange he asked you if you were gay. They just usually assume.
Well, listen, I cook. I prefer gardening to football.
Yeah, I'm not into sports either. I don't like football. I like meatball. I could
Yeah, I
have
made.
gone pro.
I made.
I made Doug laugh. Oh my God, he never laughs.
Oh, it was horrible, people. And then he said, "I played meatball." Actually, you can play meatball.
You know, I
Right?
went.
Oh no, that was meatloaf. I made a meatloaf tonight. That's what I was thinking
No,
about.
I went to a Meatloaf concert. I was the only one there with a doggy bag. It was Meatloaf, Corn, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Limp Bizkit. It was the Meals on Wheels tour.
How much of my act do you think you could do? Have you heard some of the? You've heard some of the stories. You could do them, right?
Yeah, if I had the time. I'm not used to stammering.
I once did a joke. It was a great one. It was a little ditty. We were talking about how I don't have enough little ditties.
So about
So
Jack and Diane.
when I was a kid, no, when I was like in second or third grade, I evidently stuttered, and I had to go, and I had a problem with saying my S's and my CH's and my TH's, and I had a lisp, and the teacher would ask me where I was going, and I had to say I was going to see Mrs. Smith, the speech therapist, which was a sentence, and that was her name. It was impossible for me to say.
That's tough
I'm
to
sure
say.
it sounded better than I imagined it, but I remember always having a hard time. But the comment I was going to make was that I apparently stuttered, and it seems like they should give stuttering if you're a stutterer, saying the word stutter is not so when people go, "What's your problem?" you can't even say what your problem is because you're a stutterer. They
Right.
should
Because
say that
phonetically, it's a stutter.
it should be you stut. You can say stut if you're a stutterer,
I
and you'd be
stut.
able to tell people why you're stuttering, but it's horrible.
See, now what you do now is a stammer. It's not really a stutter.
And a lot of it is for effect,
Yeah.
emphasis,
Uh-huh.
but some of it comes naturally.
He emphasizes he's an asshole.
Hey,
He's not. Well, you're only an asshole. I'm a whole ass.
okay, I feel better. So, are we allowed to have music without getting sued? Doc, can you find some music for us? You have 4 minutes. 4 minutes to find some music that where you won't get sued. Something old?
Something.
Just find some music. Google, what should he Google? Happy old music. Okay, go. Put it on, and,
Well, we're not
low.
We're not on the radio yet. We're just on Facebook.
Oh, is that true? No. No, it's okay.
No, put
we'll
it on
wait.
when we're on the radio. We'll continue to stammer. Yeah.
So, how annoying is it that I'm bothered that Funny Talk with Mongelli and Max is all in caps when clearly it's Funny Talk should be in caps and
That's the first thing I
and
noticed.
Mongelli and Max, and instead of the word and it should be
The
an
ampersand.
ampersand.
Yep.
Doc,
I think that's what I'm going to name my firstborn.
ampersand. I wanted to name my son, my first one, Seven, before there was a Seinfeld episode
Uh-huh.
about that.
Yep.
And then the other name I was thinking of naming my firstborn was Slithnog.
That's my mother's name.
I wanted a name that was unique, and that's why I started thinking of giving him his social security number as his name.
Listen,
Something that's unique.
I used to be a teacher in Patterson. If you want unique names, I can give them to you.
I've heard many comedians play around with that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Anyway,
what's your middle name, Doug?
do you want to guess? Begins with an M.
Lewis.
Martin.
We can throughout the show.
Moisha.
People can call in. No.
Murray.
No.
Morty.
I'll give you a hint. You want a hint?
Muriel.
You want a hint?
Sure.
So my first, middle, and last name all could be a first, middle, or last name.
Doug.
Douglas
Oh,
is the last name.
Douglas.
Yeah, nobody has the last name of Doug. But Douglas
Douglas.
and Max.
Mortimer. No. Merriweather. I don't know.
No, you don't.
I give up.
Already?
Tell us.
I think this could be, you had a contest. I think it could be guess Doug's middle name.
Douglas something Mex.
I'm gonna go to our Facebook page and see if people are already off.
Well, my middle name is Paul. You remind me of Paul, my pet tarantula. What's that from?
Ooh. Little Shop, no.
No.
You got me. What's that from?
It was a Bugs Bunny episode with the witch.
Oh.
You remind me of Paul, my pet tarantula.
So, I know two different female comics who both have pet tarantulas. One also has Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
See, that's not a pet to me. That's a pest. I hate spiders, any kind of spiders.
I don't care for them. I've killed some. I don't save spiders' lives. I will admit that.
Guys, ready to start?
We're ready to start, Doc.
Here we go.
What are we waiting for? Music? From beautiful downtown Robbinsville, New Jersey, Hamilton Radio, Mongelli and Max, brought to you by J. Irwin Productions. Need a comedy show? Call J. Irwin Productions at jirwinproductions.com. So, moving along, Doug,
I'm not moving anywhere, Tom.
what do you have to say for tonight?
I have no idea. I'm just going to let you do all the talking. I'm just going to stay with the keyboard
Okay.
and
Stay with the keyboard. Tonight we have,
wait.
don't
Doc,
say wait to a fat guy.
Doc.
What?
Oh, I said it 5 times. I'm sorry.
I
I want him to correct this. Instead of saying Funny Talk capital with, it should be lowercase with, lowercase Mongelli, ampersand, lowercase Max.
He's not your secretary.
How long have I known you? Can you do this?
I can do it, but yeah.
Is it going to stop the show?
No more than your
You
little
guess
thing
it's
here.
going to stop it?
No, but sometimes it can because of memory issues.
Okay, never mind.
Right, thank you.
Speaking of memory issues, I just want to mention that in a few minutes we're going to have a special guest. He's a comic. His name is Eddie Brill. Some of you know him, some of you don't. If you don't, check him out on YouTube. Funny guy. He's been around for a long time. And before we have him on, Doug and I decided we're going to give you our plugs for our upcoming shows in the beginning of the show rather than at the end of the show, in case we run out of time. So, while Doug's looking up his, I'm going to say that Friday the 13th, lucky me, I'll be at Take 5 Cafe in Robbinsville, New Jersey. Wednesday the 18th, I'm at Brookdale Tavern in Bloomfield. Friday the 20th, I'm at Leatherhead Pub in Egg Harbor. Thursday the 26th, I'm at the Old Canal Inn in Nutley. And Sunday the 29th, I'm at Tierney's Tavern in Montclair. Doug?
I want to cry, Tom.
Why? Don't feel bad. I have a lot of shows this month. Last month I have absolutely nothing.
So I will for the next 2 days I'll be appearing in North Wildwood, New Jersey with my lovely girlfriend on the beach.
Yay.
It'll be my first vacation in I don't know how long, and it's anyway, it's been a long time coming because I've become a caretaker in the last 3 weeks, as the two people that are listening know.
And who are you taking care of?
I'm taking care of my 95-year-old father, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday, Mr. Max.
So, and for those of you who don't know, he's a World War II hero. He escaped Nazi slave labor
Yay.
by running off. He didn't want to rebuild railroads anymore. So, after 4 months of surviving, sleeping along the side of a German road somewhere in the middle of winter, he escaped. And today is his birthday. And he had a heart attack 3 weeks ago. And then cracked a rib. And then gashed his head. And then got a pulmonary edema. And so I've become his nurse.
He needs better
I've been
hobbies.
I've been his cook. You know, I've been his caretaker for a year, but things got very serious in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and
So-
under your care, he's been doing
He's
great.
been under my care. So he leaves. I'm leaving him for the first time since all this happened, first time. So I'm leaving for 2 nights. My sister is home from California, but I've been his nurse and I've dealt with doctors and I'm like making diagnoses and, so he goes, Doug, did you leave all the pills, that I'm supposed to have while you're gone? I go, yeah, Dad. And I left you a few extra too.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We know Doug's still in the will.
So did I tell the story about he fell and he got a horrible gash on his head?
I don't
It's a
think you told
horrible
that
story. It's
I don't
horrible.
think you told that story.
My father goes around speaking about his time as, associated with the Holocaust as part of New Jersey's required Holocaust and genocide education. We teach in New Jersey that actually happened, and it did. So he's been part of that. And anyway, it's been keeping him very, very busy speaking about the Holocaust. So 2 days after he gets back from the hospital after his heart attack, he falls, he gashes his head. He doesn't want to go to the hospital. I'm like, Dad, he's like, can't you just? I'm like, yeah, I can, Dad, but it's a big gash on his head. So the 911 leaves, fire truck, 2 ambulances, 2 cop cars.
It's a pain in the gash.
So, anyway, he'd been irascible before this. Anyway, as I'm using these butterfly bandages to put on his head,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that if I get this wrong, it's going to line up and it's going to look like a little swastika.
Well, at least it was a little swastika.
But the good news is, if the people from the Holocaust Council see him, they won't be asking him to speak a lot anymore. So it'll be healthier. For
Mixed
him.
message.
Anyway, so for those people who think that was horrible, my father actually loved that joke. He contributed to the writing by falling and gashing his head.
See, now
Anyway, he's all better now.
I recently opened.
Mostly all better.
I recently opened a surgical center, discount surgical center.
Really?
Yeah,
What do you call it,
I
Tom?
call it Suit Yourself.
So I actually do have some comedy. July 22nd, Sunday night, I'll be at lovely Tierney's Tavern at the behest of 414 Entertainment. Woohoo!
That's
Shout out
in
to Pat.
That's in Montclair.
Then July 26th, I will be appearing with a really, really talented comic, huge, like the 4th biggest comic that anybody knows of. That's you. At the Old Canal Inn in Nutley. And August 15th, I will be appearing with Donna Vasel's wonderful, wonderful MC and comic, but she's an amazing MC. She's a great comic. It's too late, right? I love Donna. Anyway,
I did too.
At Brookdale, I don't know more about it, but it'll come up on my Facebook.
Brookdale Tavern.
Yeah. And then I'll be appearing down the hall from my dad, taking care of him and keeping him alive. And getting good comedy material, I hope.
That's
from it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took care of my dad. Toward the end
You
of his
didn't
life.
take care of him too. You told me some stories.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I fixed his ass.
Tell the remote control story.
Well, my dad was in a scooter. He had MS, multiple sclerosis. He couldn't He could stand, but it was very difficult. for
Maybe
him.
should I be your friend and tell you to stop telling this story or no?
Really? You think? Anyway, when he ticked me off, before I left the house, I take the TV remote from him and put it in the butter bin in the refrigerator. And he had to stand up out of his chair to get it. So that's my little passive-aggressive story about taking elder abuse. Elder abuse in America. I'm all for it. But anyway,
I remember my favorite it was one of my favorite, I guess you'd call it stories. Al Franken did it on Saturday Night Live. He was talking about how to save money for the space race. He said, billions and billions of dollars are spent on the space race, getting a man to the moon and back safely to Earth. He said the real big expense is getting them back to Earth alive. He said, but if you recruit geriatric astronauts, it's not as big a deal if you don't get them back.
that's nice.
The other idea he had was, if you imagine this as trench warfare, he said, if we, the elder population is soaking up most of the health care, but, and what do they have to live for? Oh, thank you. So he said, if our armies were made up of geriatrics, imagine if an Iraqi, poked his head up, say, from the trench and saw a line of 85-year-old soldiers with walkers coming towards him,
Yeah.
knowing that this army has nothing to live for. It's horrible. That's our U.S. Senator.
Nice.
Go Al.
Nice.
Okay.
So it's 9:39, and
We're very close. We're very close to the time that Eddie will call in.
yes. Now, who do we have in upcoming shows? Do we want to tip our hat?
Well, I love Chip Scooney, so why not?
Well, next show we're having Chips Cooney on. He called in last time, and we're gonna have a whole show with Chips, and we're gonna have call in people, and he led a very interesting life, Chips Cooney.
He did.
Yes.
And he was a great drummer, on top of being a wonderful comic.
Yes.
So, for those of you listening, know that come 10:10 p.m. tonight, we'll be taking calls. I don't know if we'll get any calls, but we'll take them if they come. Area code 609-807-2492, if memory serves. And at some point, maybe it'll scroll across the bottom of the screen there.
Doc.
But that's at 10:10. We're not interested in your calls now, people.
Okay.
We only are interested in Eddie. Eddie. So, should we sing or something like that while we're waiting, Tom?
If you like. I'm not good
Not
at
really.
singing.
I'm not very good at singing. What are you good at?
All you can eat buffets. I'm good at
Do you get angry looks when you walk in?
people
'cause-
rush to get in front of me online.
I never found all you can eat buffets worthwhile for me.
I once went to a Jimmy Buffett concert because I thought it was all you can eat. That was a letdown. Don't
You
encourage-
haven't heard it 100 times. How many times have I heard that, Tom?
at least
In 6 years?
80 times. 80 times. Well, you heard, speaking of concerts, I heard that Lady Gaga is going to be touring with the Goo Goo Dolls. It's the Goo Goo Gaga tour.
This is me laughing very hard on the inside. That's why it can't come out.
Speaking of
'Cause
which,
I'm laughing so hard.
speaking of segues, don't you think they should have the maternity ward in the hospital next to the ICU so you can visit and go, peekaboo, ICU?
And actually, that's a brilliant idea, Tom.
I
That
get
is.
him. I get him.
So before our show, we met for dinner. A wonderful place, the
Villa Barone.
Barone.
Yes.
Barone.
Barone.
Barone. Wonderful chicken franchise, a staple. The Italian. Is it Italian? I guess it's Italian.
Yes.
So wonderful. I brought samples for everybody here tonight.
I'm going home with a big dish of broccoli rabe.
Except the waiter did not bring us bread, so we finally asked for it at the end of the meal, and it was wonderful.
He looked at me twice, and he figured they probably can't afford it.
Did we pay for bread? Was that on the
That
menu?
comes with it.
You'd think, but he should have offered. Anyway, but otherwise, props. Wonderful restaurant. Doc, you ever eat at Villa Barone?
It's right near the Dunkin' Donuts across the highway. Good place. Yeah. But now that we've totally bored our audience, all three of them,
So any good celebrity deaths recently that you're aware of?
celebrity deaths. Who just died? I don't know.
Keith Richards?
No, he's still going. He'll outlive us all.
That's always the best guess. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Let's see. Family story time, Tom?
Tab Hunter just died.
Tab Hunter.
Yes.
Aw.
Yeah, he drinks the diet soda. Not anymore.
So did he really die? Now I have to ask.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he was one of those closet gay actors.
Who died recently?
I think we just did.
Okay, Tab Hunter died. Steve Ditko. Who's Steve Ditko?
I don't know.
NBA star Tyler Honeycutt dies after exchange of fire with the police?
Never heard of him.
Wow. Wow. That doesn't sound good.
All right. So anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Doc, get us a phone call. We'll hear from Eddie soon.
I can't do that. I just get it when they come in.
so anyway,
Yeah, Tom. You know, you and I were very entertaining when we're talking, not on the radio.
are we listening to the same show?
We should emulate one of our funny phone calls.
You know, I just want to mention it's like 110 degrees in here. There's like 16 fans, which is more fans than either one of us have ever seen. None of them are on. And you're vaping. The fire department's going to think there's something going on up here.
Are you leaving us, Doc?
The fan is on.
Yeah, it's facing Des Moines, Iowa. Idaho. Where's Des Moines? Idaho.
Can you orient it? See if we can pick up a signal. See if we can pick up a signal from space. Yeah. Aye. Okay, well, you do what you do what you want to do here. Hang on a second. I got an incoming call.
That's probably Mitzi
Hello?
Gaynor.
Eddie, can you call on the show's number? Let me give it to you. This is no 609.
Why are you putting suicide hotline up there? Our show is
Sorry.
isn't that
It's
bad, is it?
807 2492. Thank you, Eddie. Talk to you soon. Bye.
I know we're kind of slow tonight, but
Okay, put the suicide hotline number back on quick, please. I'm calling.
the life you saved may be mine.
Just put it back up, Doc. Okay, Eddie's gonna call in a second.
I can't find it. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Okay, we'll just wait. It's okay.
Hello.
There he is. Hi, Eddie.
Hey guys.
Hey Eddie, this is Tom. How are you?
I'm good, Tom. How's everything there?
Pretty good.
Things aren't good.
Well,
They're great.
They're horrible. No, we were horrible. We were like dying a horrible death in front of thousands and thousands of people before you called. So thank you.
Oh my
Bless
God.
you for saving us.
Well,
this is
hopefully
Doug,
we'll bring
by
a
the
couple
way.
more thousand we can die in front of.
Okay, good. Good. So where do we begin with you, Eddie? First of all, because I know we have some common associations. Any comics we talk about, I just want to keep as anonymous comics. Okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Unless it's really good stories. But I have some really good stories, but I'm not a mean, nasty person, so I want to be able to tell these wonderful stories but without a name associated.
Yeah, no, I try to do the same thing. I write a lot of stories. I'm working on memoirs kind of stuff, and no way do I want to hurt anyone in any scenario. It's not worth it.
Yeah, no, well, listen, in my case, I feel like I paid $5,000 to get some great material.
Oh my God. What do you mean by that?
The feature of it is called 14 Days of No Pooping.
Oh my God.
It wasn't me.
Now that's a feature.
Just somebody
I'll tell you.
somebody I happened to run into along the comedy highway will say, yeah.
I didn't realize he was that anal retentive.
Yeah.
But
Oh
I'm
my
bummed.
God. Talk about retentive.
Oh, and and it's really true because people would say he's full of,
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that you have to be pretty clean on this conversation.
Not
Different podcasts have
particularly.
different things.
Yeah, no.
I'm usually pretty clean, but sometimes, there are certain, rules. Because you said pooping, and then you stopped short of saying sh
Yeah.
blank blank.
Yeah,
So,
no,
okay,
I'm normally,
all right.
I'm
I
normally,
didn't know the rules.
I'm normally pretty clean, although my humor tends to, disgusting, Tom, would you say that? But in a clean way.
Right.
It's if
Well, if you have all that time sitting on the toilet, I'm sure you have plenty of scatological ideas for material.
I do not do potty humor. Tom either.
Oh, good.
Tom doesn't either. He does litter box humor.
Yes, I have litter
Right. Well,
box.
that's a different kind of potty.
Yeah.
That's like a cat potty, like cats are partying.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I think I wrote you as when you agreed to come on the show that I was associated with a comic who every time he opened up his mouth, it was Eddie Brill this, it was Eddie Brill that. I think I wrote you something like I had grown to hate you, and I never met you.
Well, as long as you've grown, that's the most important thing.
That's
Because
the,
if you would have hated me but just stayed short or young, it would have been a little weird.
Well,
so that's good.
but it's turning out to be my nose. What can I say?
Ah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I said, I come from a big nose family, but tonight, for some reason, I had stopped at this place around the corner, and it was hilarious how many big noses were in there. It was like, oh, I found my people.
You could suggest they offer instead of ladies' night, big nose night.
Yeah, it was good. A lot of breathing in there. A lot of. It was very funny. It just happened to be, there was one guy who was backwards to me. Then he turned around and was like, "Oh my God, everybody has a big nose, including me."
Did you end up running out?
There was not much oxygen left.
Like
I had to go.
a living nightmare. But I'm bump.
Yeah. No, it was pretty funny. But anyway, so, well, I'm glad that people, look, comedy's, not everyone likes everyone's comedy. So, some people like some and some people don't. And you can't make everyone, it's subjective. So you can't make everyone like what you do. But you know what I learned? I've learned to really, you like what you do what you like and like what you do. And if other people like it, great. And if not, well, hopefully the next crowd will. That's the way. I did a interview with these guys from Finland, and they're huge comedy fans and great guys, and they have a podcast called "We're Not Here to Please You."
Huh.
And I was kind of like, it became sort of my mantra. Like, I'm not here to please you. I was happy if you were pleased with what I did, but that's not the job that I'm set out to do. My job really is to do what I love and what makes me laugh and what I find amusing, and hopefully, in turn, other people will find that as well.
Can I agree with you and disagree at the same time?
Of course you
Good,
can.
because as you're telling that, and I agree, I really do agree. And I heard this from Gladys Simon said, just have fun. Because if you're not having fun, why would you expect random people to enjoy your act? So I totally get that. But then on the other hand, since I'm only 6 years into comedy, you understand I'm on some shows with comics that have, they're up very early on in their career. And they heard the same thing. Do the things that make, you happy. And some of the things that make these younger comics happy are filthy, disgusting, vile. It's to get shocks. I've heard comics say, an ooh counts as a laugh. I'm like, no, it doesn't. They oohed you. They didn't laugh.
Well, I think that's a different thing. I think that at the beginning, comics tend to, not all comics, but most comics, including myself and others, you act like a comedian at the beginning. You think that's the kind of thing that's funny. It doesn't mean that pleases you. What you're doing is you're just trying to find your way up on stage. And many people think, scatological humor, cursing or that kind of thing is clever or funny, but it's not. That's a different category altogether. When you start out, oftentimes you suck. Oftentimes people are not great.
You saw me.
Very few comics.
Thank you for coming
the
out.
only comic I ever saw who got it right away was Chappelle. He was 17 or so. First time I saw him. And he didn't know any better. He just went out and he told the truth and he talked about what mattered to him. But most comedians, I've seen some of the greatest comedians in the world when they started, they didn't really know what they were doing. They were doing the kinds of things they saw other people do. So yes, I understand what you're saying but I don't believe these comics are doing it because that's what makes them laugh the most. I think that's what they think they're supposed to do. Or you only find that the only teacher in comedy is stage time. The more you're on stage, the more you realize, hey, wait a second.
Well,
if I could do something that I'm already doing, but do it more in a more clever way, I'll please myself more as well.
A lot of younger comics, they have dick jokes. I have a joke dick.
Yeah, that's pretty funny right there. See. That's a good play on words. But I'll tell you
let me
what,
mark that down. Wait a minute.
When my big closer about a couple of years in was about the Patty Duke show and the hot dog makes her lose control, which is an amplified dick joke.
No.
And one of my first closers was about going to the bathroom and going there after someone had taken a dump, and then I just went in to wash my hands. And when I was coming out, there was a beautiful girl walking in, and I'm like, no, it was the guy before me. And it was big laughs. I mean, this is 6 months in, and I thought it was the funniest. It was my big closer because, talking about farting or going to the bathroom or stuff, it's just easy and what we drive around on stage as a young comedian until we start to really, start working and figuring things out.
Yeah, it takes a while to find your voice, your stage voice, your persona.
Yes, it's true. And here's the odd part. The odd part is that your voice has always been there the whole time, Dorothy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all you had to do. All you had to do was get rid of all the stuff that you've been taught in your life was good or bad, or all this information that all the lies we've been lied to about history, about the world, what your parents told you, what maybe your religion told you. All these lies, you have to just. Once you get rid of all of that, it's like taking a weight off your shoulders, and now all you're left with is you, which is your voice.
Right.
So what happens is it's not that you don't find your voice; is that your voice is in there. You just have all this crap covering it.
Well, listen, I'm a storyteller, and almost all my stories begin in real life. They end, somewhere in the neighborhood. I'll leave it that way. But so as soon as I hear a comic who's got a great little ditty and they construct some really, as soon as I realize this isn't real and they're making it up, I tune out immediately, so I really, but, and I've had people say, just be yourself. I'm like, damn it. What am I supposed to do?
Right. Well, be yourself. Be your authentic self. That's what I was told,
and it's not
that's
easy.
what I've come to realize all the time. It's just that's the stuff that's the funniest. When you're a funny comedian, you're being your authentic self. Now there are character comedians. There are all kinds of comedy.
Yeah.
If there was one rule for one comedian, you'd have all the same kind of comedians. You wouldn't have Andy Kaufman. You wouldn't have Phyllis Diller. You wouldn't, all these different styles and Gilbert Gottfried.
Bob Nelson.
But But that's basically everyone's foundation is in the truth, and most people who I would say the thread of the greatest comedians I've ever seen are the strength of vulnerability, where you can poke fun at something else, but it's got to come back to bite you in the ass if you do that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I use that a lot. I actually studied Shakespeare, so I'm a big believer in the comic foil in reverse. So my opening line is after acting very sheepishly, I tell people I had to go through a procedure so I can have sex again. Divorce.
Right. Oh, there you go. And then now you've got most of the crowd now.
Yeah, and then later on, I'm tricking women to have sex with me in online dating, and I'm getting away with it.
There you go.
A few months after Trump, shortly after Trump, things were very delicate. From everybody's point of view, people were getting triggered very easily. So I had to stop. I had to stop pretending I was tricking women.
Eddie, how do you feel about the political correctness in comedy?
Yeah, it's a horrible thing. I mean, there are some people who need to be protected, and you have to respect that. There's this, you never want to make fun of someone who's less fortunate than you are. Is not there to protect themselves. As they say, you don't want to punch down. There's nothing funny about homeless people. There's nothing funny. It's sad and it's horrific in a lot of ways, and it's important not to make fun of homeless people. But the joke really is how we as human beings get scared when we see homeless people and don't want to be them. That's what I find. But political correctness, there are a lot of colleges and universities, they did a bunch of interviews, and they said, well, we're protecting our students. Well, there are plenty of students who don't want or need to be protected. If we had to protect everyone, you wouldn't have George Carlin or Lenny Bruce, or, you wouldn't have Maria Bamford, you wouldn't have all these incredible comedians. There's a difference in being politically correct, so you're not like just shitting on someone because you're making fun of them for being different than you are. That's where the vulnerability comes in. You make fun of someone. Go ahead, say that.
Oh, I was going to say that's a major philosophy. Why make fun of anybody coming to see you as as an entertainer?
You make fun of all of us. Hold a mirror up in front of the audience and go, look, we're all nerds. We all suck. We all make mistakes. We think we're cool, but that's where using that as a cover.
But mostly me. If anybody gets hurt in my act, it's me.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Usually,
but
it's your
political
audience.
correctness is different.
Thank you, Tom.
It's just such a waste of time to try to, there are certain things that people, point out, and if it bums you out, well, know in advance before you go to that show that you might be offended, that you might get your feelings hurt. But it just ruins art. It ruins comedy and the art of comedy. So,
and creativity.
There's really no room for that.
Yeah. Now, Eddie, for the folks or the three people that are watching.
Oh, they're watching? I should put on a shirt.
We're on the radio, too.
You're not.
Okay.
They're not seeing you.
Okay.
We heard you weren't that good looking.
Yeah, exactly.
But
no one, I would have combed my hair.
You've obviously been in the business for a long time.
Yes, sir.
Give us an idea of some of the comics that you've worked with over the years.
Well, you said no name dropping, but I went to college in Boston and Emerson, and we started a comedy group. And in that comedy group, over the first few years, were Dennis Leary and Lauren Dombrowski, Mario Cantone, on and on and on. Eventually, Bill Burr and David Cross and all these people.
Wow.
And before us at Emerson was, Jay Leno and Norman Lear and Andrea Martin, and so there's a long history of comedy in one way or another at Emerson. So I worked with all those people, and Boston was an incredible comedy scene. A guy named Barry Crimmins, who recently passed, who gave me my first, paid gig, and he had a room called the Ding Ho, and we all worked it, and they were all great comics. We worked together. Stephen Wright and I were in school together, and
wow.
We would go watch him do stand-up, and I wanted to do stand-up as well, so that's how that came about.
He's one of
and
my
then,
all-time favorites.
after college was over, I decided, well, that was fun, but now I got to move back to New York and try to get a real job, and I quit doing stand-up, and then all of a sudden I started missing it, and my friends were doing well, and I got back into it in 1984. So this month, in July of of 2018, I'll be at it 34 years in a row.
Wow.
And I've worked with everyone. I've not only have I worked with almost everyone, I've been mentored by some of the greatest comics, you know, from Joan Rivers and David Brenner to Robert Klein and, you know, people like Sam Kinison and John Mendoza and Robert Schimmel. They all took me under their wing and were very, very good to me. There are many more who, you know, were there for me. My first Letterman set, both Joan Rivers and David Brenner gave me incredible advice on the set that I was doing. It was very, you know, I've been very, very...
They didn't say,
very
run,
fortunate.
Eddie, run.
Yes, yeah, in a sense, probably.
So-
I didn't hear that part because I loved it too much.
So since we're being so serious, I will ask you this question. Tom and I have a friend in comedy who once again has decided he wants to get out of comedy. And I'm sure you work with people and in many different phases. I think I've been through this phase maybe a couple times, but somewhere in the back of my head, I'm in 6 years. You know, there's hardly a night where I'm spending 5 or 6 hours and spending $50 to get into the city to do 5 minutes of work where I'm not thinking,
Right.
well, this seems really stupid. I really love it. You know, I really love
Good.
doing it, and I'm going to keep on doing it. It's my basket weaving, and because I feel that way, I get better and I get laughs, and you know, I'm old. I'm 60. How old am I? 62. So you know, I know I'm not going to be.
You look younger on radio.
Thank you.
On radio.
Everybody wants to be a comedian. So anyway, I presume you've run into, if not had those thoughts yourself. And what have you counseled people when they reflect on, you know, comedy?
Well, you know what? If I tell people it was easy, everyone would do it. It's not easy, but I love it with all my heart. You can't help but getting better at it all if you keep doing it. And I'm writing every day, and you know, at least 5 days a week, if not every day. And you know, I'm getting on stage as much as I can, and I still love it like crazy. It's the greatest job of all the kind of jobs I do and have done in my life. I love, you know, stand up the mostest. And I would tell people, you got to really love it. And like Brenner said, not just to me, but to everybody, David Brenner said, you got to marry it. You got to love it. You got to nurture it. You got to water it. You got to live it. And you know, it's not an easy job. If everyone, again, if it was easy, everyone would do it because the reward is so powerful. And getting laughs. I mean, the first time I got laughs, it was like heroin. I had to chase it forever.
No,
I always say that comedy is my heroin because
Yes, it is.
You can't beat the euphoric high you get when you have the whole audience laughing out loud.
You guys,
Yeah.
you have such a high bar. 'Cause I've told the story many times. I remember it was my second open mic, and I went through my entire set, such as it was, and the room was entirely silent the entire time. And I drove home, and I realized how good I'd become since the open mic before, because the open mic before, they were all talking and chit-chatting, and nobody was paying any attention. That night I had silence. And I still love now when I get silence, when I do my Jack Benny pause,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people don't pause. You know, I'll give them a full second.
I know,
It's like,
that's very,
when
very
I hear
important.
silence, I know I've got them. I love hearing
Timing
silence.
is everything.
Yeah, it is. Timing is everything. And also the silence is the nonverbal stuff is just as important, if not more important.
They want to
as
hear
Jack
what
Benny
I'm saying.
proved
Yeah.
in there. You know, I know a lot of comics who can't handle the pauses, so they'll say, or you know, or that's crazy in those
Yep.
areas, and it takes away from the power that
Exactly.
they could get from it. I remember doing comedy for a very long time and then going to a gig in Jersey where I got there and the crowd was an older crowd, much older than I was, and I went on stage and that's never bothered me before. I don't really have a hard time with crowds of different ages or different religions or different colors or whatever. And I went up there and I wasn't getting a laugh. And about the first 8 minutes, I didn't get a laugh. And it was kind of interesting because it hadn't happened to me in a very long time. So I told the crowd, I said, look, I don't think this is going well either. And they laughed, which was great. And I just said, you probably want Marty Brill. and because Marty was this old time comedian from the 40s, 50s,
that's
and
going,
60s,
yeah.
and joke teller. And some guy in the audience goes, "Yes, we thought it was Marty Brill." That's what they were told. So when they
Oh
saw
my
this young
God.
guy go up there, they were almost it's not that they weren't laughing, which they weren't. They were just like, "Who's this kid and where's Marty Brill?"
Really?
And so I said, "Well, Marty was a joke teller, and I'm more of an observational comic." And I said, "And I don't know that many jokes, but here's one, here's and there, laughing at the jokes." And I said, "Anyone in the audience know any jokes?" And the guy raised his hand. I go out in the audience, and I hand him the mic, and he tells a joke. Then a lady raises her hand and says, "I got a joke." Then I told another joke. Then another guy. And 45 minutes later, we were all best friends.
Wow.
It worked really well. I took a situation that was horrific, and I never forgot what a lesson that was for me. To you have to, if it's not working, you have to, try something else.
Right.
And it worked out where we had I'll never forget that night ever. I can picture most of the people still years later.
Wow.
See, Tom, and at dinner we were talking tonight. I told Tom one of the things I always wanted to do, and I've never had the nerve or the time, but is to play Simon Says with my audience. He goes, didn't
Simon
Andy
Says
Kaufman?
laugh.
He goes, didn't Andy Kaufman do that? I'm like, I don't think so. I took him out for milk and cookies,
Yes.
and he I
He
don't
sure
know.
did.
Anyway, I think that would be funny.
Well,
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm actually comfortable with uncomfortable moments.
That's very, very important, very huge.
Yeah, I used to teach public school,
Ah,
and I know when things aren't getting through. And,
Yeah.
you have to learn how to work with it. That's all.
I
right.
remember
And like I said before, if you're getting silenced, at least they're paying attention.
Yeah.
it's something you take what you can get. But,
Yeah. But the bottom line is, I still love it like crazy. It gets better and better as I go along. I just can't help, I just can't help myself. I just got to do stand up, and even though I have all these other kinds of things I do in the industry, most of the number one job for me is doing stand up.
Right. That's number one for Doug, but it smells more like number two.
Tom, hey,
Hey,
nice.
kid.
I'm your partner. I'm gonna remember that.
Not very long. You're pretty old.
There's hope.
So Eddie, are you from Jersey? I don't even know.
No, I'm originally from Brooklyn. I was
Oh.
born and raised in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and then when I was 12, I moved to Florida.
Nice.
And then when I graduated high school, I went to college in Boston, then right back to New York. So, except for 10 years of my life exactly, I have lived in New York. Weirdly enough, when I was a kid, Brooklyn, we moved, and I wrote the date down, and I never forgot it. August 23rd, 1970. Wrote down the thing, go to Florida. And then when I was moving back to New York, the day I was moving back, I happened to have a watch that had the date on it, and it was August 23rd, 1980. So I was like, that was freakish. 10 years to the day that I left it. So
Wow.
in my life, I've lived every day in New York except for those 10 years in the middle.
Nice.
And I lived in L.A. back and forth. I split apartments with comedians in L.A. and New York, and that was pretty good. And, my rent was cheaper because there were more people splitting the rents, and it was kind of fun to be able to, work in both cities.
See, I have 4 roommates. I'm multiple personality, but the rent isn't any cheaper.
Yeah, no, it's just, it's too bad. It's a shame that you can't get money from those other personalities.
I know.
Ba-dum-bum. So I'm going to ask you this question, Eddie. There
Sure.
was a show, I don't know the name of it. I don't know about comedy. And I know there's a character named Goldie who runs a show. Anyway, there was
Oh,
a
right.
scene just a few nights ago where the comics were all talking quietly among themselves. And they were talking about going on strike. And
Right.
so I wanted to talk about what I have as a sense of the comic world, at least around New York. I don't know if it's true in other cities or not, but there's so many comics. There's so many venues. There's so many stages that'll take anyone who knows a few people. There's an awful lot of comedy going on. And
Mm-hmm.
and listen, I'm on these shows. I'm really grateful. And thank God I don't have to bring people anymore. I get
Right.
laughs and but I see so many comics that really aren't. And I'm like, how are you? I don't get it. People always came up to me, when I started, and wow, every comic is so smart. I'm like, oh no.
No, the only
There's
way
so
to get
many.
great at it is to get stage time.
Right.
So you have,
Yeah. I know. I'm grateful for the time.
I've booked comedians in many different scenarios, and if they don't do well the first time, I don't count them out and
Yeah.
say, well, they'll never be good.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a lot of them from one year to the next jump in. If they are dedicated,
Absolutely
you see them go from not really knowing too much about what they're doing to being phenomenal. And that's
Well,
really
thank you.
exciting. There are a lot of comics.
Appreciate it.
Not everyone's great at it, and
No,
not
I
everyone's
agree.
gonna do what it takes to be great at it.
Yeah.
And that's just like anything. When you go to college, your freshman year, you take Science 101, and there's 400 people in your class. Well, when you take Science 201, there's 30 people in your class. And the same thing with comedy. There are thousands and thousands of comedians, and I work in many different countries, so I know many thousands of comedians. But as the years go on, there's less and less and less who move to the higher ranks.
Well, I think I hope this is a time period where there just seems to be a glut of venues, and as a result, anybody can be a comedian. And I don't want to be a snob. I know I'm old. My tastes come from the golden age of comedy. But I see a lot of really lazy, stupid idiots.
In every
I'm
job,
standing
though.
right here.
You look at lawyers or politicians or anything. There's a lot of idiots, and there's a handful.
Yeah.
Always the smallest percentile are always usually are the people who work their ass off and are really good at what they do. Some people will sneak in, but that's just because they're good marketers or they're good.
I know.
They know how to sell out a show or whatever.
Yeah, that's
but you
true.
can't worry about the other people. There's nothing you can do. You can't control other people. All you can do is be the best. I know it's so corny. I'm just saying it. I even
become a
feel it,
mass
but
murderer.
be
It's all
the best
rage.
you, and then people can't help but book you, and then you don't have to worry about all
I
these
know.
other people and what they're doing. It's
I
not
like
worth
that.
it.
I actually have often adopted the theory that I'm grateful for flying under the radar, and some point I'll be undeniable, and then a week
Yeah.
later I'll be dead.
There are some
Yeah,
advantages
and
to
then
being
then
anonymous.
and then there's no radar. But before I went to LA to do stand up, I waited till I was pretty good at it. So when I went there, I wasn't just an open micer who was finding my way.
Right.
I tore it up when I auditioned, and I got work. And then the same thing when I went to Europe. When I first went to England, I waited till I was pretty good at it. I went there and I was put in a situation. I was able to pull it off because of the experience I had, and then started working and then it led me to other gigs in other countries. And
Right.
I just
another
booked
type of
Ireland
timing.
and Paris for October, and as a little kid, I never dreamt I would go to these places. Now they're paying me to go to these places. It's I'm giddy.
So Tom, what we need to do, we need to find the most dismal place to do comedy that speaks English.
In
Where we can
in your own
stand out.
bathroom. That's a good start.
No, come on, something like what city?
You just described
Where?
half of my
Let's
gigs.
throw a state under the bus. Where, West Virginia?
I've never
And
been
That's
to
one
West
of the
Virginia.
6 states I haven't worked in. West Virginia is one of them.
Really?
Yeah. I'd like to. I'd like to do all 50. I've done 44.
Nice.
Yeah.
I knew a comic. You actually know a comic too, no names, who said he
Right.
performed in all 50 states. But then we
Cool.
learned that 90% of what he said wasn't true. So I have no idea
Oh.
if that was true.
All right.
Because I used
Yeah.
I used to bring him up and say that, and he'd like, "Don't say that anymore." I'm like, "I think that's great. You should be proud of that."
He was talking about the state of depression, the
Yeah,
state
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
confusion.
Right. Yeah.
Good one, Tom.
Yeah.
Write that.
I
Are you
gotcha.
writing that down,
No.
Tom? You should
Yeah.
write that down.
I've written it down.
No. Yeah, that's Tom's. Oh, that's
Oh,
the other
okay.
thing. All these people stealing
Oops, up.
material.
I'll throw it away.
Comics have made. Comics have done some really, really oddball things. From plants, with plants to
What?
severed heads.
Mm.
What are you talking
Right.
about?
Eddie, you know what I'm talking about with plans.
I
right?
sure do. Yes,
Yeah, of
I
course.
do.
Oh,
But yeah, no, I
now he gets it. I translated.
again, I don't worry about all these other people.
Yeah.
Look, there was a time when I had not done my half-hour comedy special on Comedy Central, and I was somebody else got it before me who I didn't think was as talented or deserved it yet, and I thought I deserved it, and that was really selfish of me to think that way, and but I just wanted it badly, and I was kind of angry that I didn't get it. But then I eventually got it and did it, and now I wish I would have even waited a couple more years because I watched that special, and I'm like, oh, God, the material is so much better, got so much better after time, and, here I was pandering in this place, which is one of my least favorite things that when a comic does is pander, and, and I was like, oh, God, I'm almost embarrassed by it. But it's interesting how things work out. It's just, I have the special, it happened, I can't change that, and and I just write newer, better stuff or improve on the old stuff by, rerouting the joke into a different way. But, that's all part of the process. But again, like you said, if you stay under the radar and you do the work, when it's time to be seen in the right place and you go and you blow them away, they go, hey, how come we haven't seen this person? Well, we have work here, and let me recommend you to this person. And another comic will come up to you and go, hey, I got a gig for you. Like when I was first starting out, I went to San Francisco after I knew that I had a little bit of an act. I went to San Francisco and stayed on a friend's couch, and he was nice enough to recommend me. And then, that's how you have to do it.
You got his number? You got his number?
I do. And and he has a different couch. But the interesting thing is the most important thing, really is that, you put the work in and it's going to pay off. I said it before, I say it again, and you have to be able to deliver when the pressure's on. And the way you do that is stage time, stage time, stage time.
Right. There's so many little intricacies to the business that you if you knew ahead of time how much you needed to learn, nobody would ever go into this.
Possibly not. Yeah, very true.
Well, that's why you get brilliant people that are challenged and energized and did it like we've done it for 6 years, not breaking even by a far margin, I when I started it, I would joke that I thought it was less expensive than therapy. It turns out it's far more expensive.
Yeah,
by the way,
very true.
By the way, Doug, who gave you your first paid gig?
Oh, you did, Tom.
Yes, I did.
You did. And I gave you the money back. And it was one of my favorite shows ever, the Fat Guys Comedy Show. I was the honorary non-fat person. I brought chocolate for everybody.
No, that wasn't the show, though. It was at Colucci's.
Oh, that one. Okay. I was thinking of another one that had 4 people in the audience. 3 of them were relatives of a comic. We all knew one another by the, 4 people.
Uh-huh.
You're right. Yeah, I've done a show for 2 people before, the comic strip in New York one night. It was amazing. It was a show I'll never forget. It was really fun. And I just said to them, I remember they're from Scottsdale, Arizona. I can picture them still. It was a million years ago. And you had a rule of the comic strip. If anyone was still in the audience and your turn was up, you had to go on. So I went on. And I just sat on the edge of the stage near them, and we just talked. And I did my act for them, and let them ask me questions, and it was great. It's like a PBS special. It was really nice.
That's great.
Never forget.
Yeah, no, I know. I've been on shows where people are looking out at an audience of 25 people, and who are you?
Speaking of audiences and size of audiences, you mentioned you got back into the business in '84. I don't suppose you've ever been subjected to a bringer show.
No, it wasn't invented yet until then. The Bringer Show started at Stand Up New York. Kerry Hoffman started the idea, and he had hired Andy Engel, who was working with audience extras, bringing in audiences, and they sort of concocted Kerry Hoffman started it, and then Andy Engel took it and brought it to Caroline's, Kerry Hoffman's idea,
and then to Gotham,
and then it became a thing. And it pretty much goes against business standards and practices because it's extortion to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you think of comedy as a business, well, how are you going to get an audience to come to a show where there's all these people who are just kind of starting out, and there are hundreds of those kinds of shows? you
And
have
the
to
club has
find a
to
way
pay
to do
for
it.
rent. They have to stay in business. If these
Yeah.
clubs aren't, if they're not supported through the open mics that they do, and God, listen, they're making, if they make $30 an hour for some of these hours they're doing open mics.
Yeah.
The building is there. They've got to pay it.
The downside though is
Yeah.
that the not so good comics, in air quotes,
Tom,
who happen to have lots of friends and family that are still willing to support them because they're only in comedy for the first half hour, they're the ones that the audience members are being subjected to, and it's diluting the whole experience of going to a comedy show.
Right. That's one of the major negatives of it. But if you have a good host, the host will keep the audience going, and also let them know that everyone here is not. You're not here to root. There's no competition. You're here
It's
to
gotta
root for
start
everybody
somewhere.
because everyone's kind of starting out and giving everyone their attention.
and I love it
And
so
that's
that the audience gets
supposed
to
to.
appreciate what people are putting in to get to the top.
So, I didn't start comedy till I was
Go
50.
to 25 people to your show. Well, they're not gonna, from Philadelphia to New York to work at Caroline's. Well, you're not going to get to perform all the time. That's going to happen once a year or twice a year that you can get a crowd of people to come out. It's you just gotta work really hard. Look, again, it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it, and it's
Right.
not. But if you can keep putting the work and start your own room. That's what I did. I had trouble at the beginning when I first moved to New York because, well, first of all, I wasn't doing stand-up. And then all of a sudden a thing fell in my lap where you can run this comedy club in the Village. So I did. It was called the Paper Moon, and I turned it into a comedy thing. And it was on 3rd and Thompson. It eventually became the Boston Comedy Club when I gave it up. But it was the downstairs part, and I, had a lot of friends who were great comics: Susie Essman, Mario Cantone, Colin Quinn. Adam Sandler was going to NYU down the street. So I brought all these people in. Some were great, some weren't great. And, people just kept getting better because I would bring in ringers. I'd bring in Paula Poundstone and Bobcat Goldthwait and all these people to come and work and give them a really nice stage for them to work, make it professional. And little by little, friends said, oh, I got this friend. And, that's how most of the people get work is recommendation. I worked for Letterman because Louis C.K., I warmed up the Dana Carvey show, and Louis was one of the head writers there. Then he started writing at Letterman, and Letterman was looking for a warm-up, and that's how my name was mentioned. It's pretty much you go there, you do the work, you put the time in, and if you're consistent and you have some kind of spark, someone's going to recommend you.
Right.
I wrote an opening for Louis when he comes back on the road. I hope he uses it. You can tell him. He comes out, he goes, so I don't know if you know this about me, but I really love gardening.
Wah, wah, wah.
You think that, yeah. It's funny. I haven't seen or spoke to Louis in a long time. It's, before then. And I just wonder what's going to happen. If he's going to go out, what the audiences are going to feel, and all this other kind of stuff. I always thought he was a talented performer.
Absolutely.
I always did. And he was always good to me.
And something, I will also say there are very few comics that I really admire, and the ones, for me anyway, sorry, are the ones that that recognize the bully pulpit that they have, and they go after big, important, real things. And there are very few of them.
Yeah.
And there's some amazing Jon Stewart was there for so many people, and John Oliver and Samantha Bee and Trevor Noah. They're
Right.
It's just wonderful,
and also have great teams of writers. So all those people are fantastic, but they're smart enough to hire the smartest writers in show business to come and write for them and with them.
That
those
actually
people all
discouraged
with 7
me.
or 8 Emmys each.
When I learned that people like Chris Rock and Chappelle had a team of writers behind them, I was heartbroken for a few days, and then I realized, of course.
Look at Letterman. Letterman had all these Harvard guys, from the beginning of time. All these Harvard guys wrote for his show, and they're some of the best writers in the world.
I went to the Harvard of the Midwest. Maybe I should
What's
apply.
that?
I went to the Harvard of the Midwest.
Which was?
What was that?
Washington
Northwestern?
University. By the way,
Which
Eddie,
one?
my son is named Emerson. I was thinking when you went there. Yeah.
Yeah, Emerson. Now you can go to school and major in comedy writing and comedy there, which is great. Which we started, back in the late '70s when Norman Lear, who had went to Emerson, came to the school. I met him, told him what we were doing. He, jumped on board, and now here we are, 40 years later, and people can major. It's a very, very cool, very proud, proud accomplishment 40 years later.
Tom, you want to go to school? You want to go to school again?
No, I'm done with school. I have more degrees than a thermometer.
Yeah, being on stage every night, that's cool.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
On the job training.
It's getting harder for me because I've got the 95-year-old war hero, heart attack, pulmonary edema dad at home. So I've become a caretaker like 24/7 for the last few weeks anyway.
Well, you have an audience that you can make laugh.
Yeah, I've already done some.
You're assuming an awful lot there.
I've already done some stuff with him. It's like I'm waiting for him to. Unfortunately, he can remember, so I'm waiting. It'll be a lot easier when he forgets. I can do things like, "No, Dad, I gave you breakfast. Don't you remember?" And I can probably get him down to a meal a day.
That would be great, and then you could do your act over and over again. He wouldn't remember that you had done it before.
That's right.
Like, I like your new material.
I need a lot of material. I make my own clothes.
Ah, there you go.
This is the radio, Tom. And you're wearing black. No, it's so slimming.
Yeah, I don't think it's working.
Yeah.
Takes you down to 300 pounds. Or something.
Ah.
Yeah.
So it's 10:29, Doug. Did you realize that?
Eddie, do you have shows you'd like to promote? Things coming up? Ventures?
Well, this weekend I'm on Saturday night. I'm at Hopewell Junction. I'm doing a big show. It's on my Facebook page. It should be a great show. Me and Stacey Kendro, who's hilarious. We get to work together. Sunday, I'll be in Manhattan in Battery Park hosting the summer comedy series, and it's a free show from 2 to 4. There's some kind of statue called the Clinton statue. It's not the Clinton you're thinking of, but it's down there in Battery Park, and there'll be a mess of good comedians, and I'm hosting the event.
Wow,
so that's this Saturday
sounds like
and Sunday.
A lot of fun. I used to take my son down to Battery Park all the time for skateboarding.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's great down there, and it'll be fun, and it's not going to be hot and evil on Sunday. It's actually going to be decent weather, so come say hello there on Sunday.
That'll be great.
Beautiful.
And what is your website?
EddieBrill.com. It's actually under construction right now. There are some things on there, but it's under construction, so it's really not up to date yet. But it will be. I have a new person working on it, so. But EddieBrill.com, and you can find me on Facebook, Eddie Brill, and Eddie_Brill on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Anything else, Tom?
Well, I just wanted to mention if anyone wants to contact us on the show, our email is funnytalkmm@gmail.com. And I have a website that's comictommongelli.vistaprintdigital.com. And you'll get carpal tunnel typing that in. And what else did we want to say?
I don't have a website, but I have one YouTube video up after having removed like 30 of them when I realized, oh my God, what have I done?
Is that two comics, one cup? No?
2 comics, 1... What?
I'll explain later.
You explain it to me later.
So, any final words, Eddie? It's great to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Great talking to you guys. It's my pleasure. A lot of fun. I love talking comedy, so it was a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll see each other in person sometime.
That would be nice, and we'd love to have you back on sometime, too. We'll
It'd
figure
be my
something
pleasure.
to talk about. Wonderful. All
All
right.
right. Have a great night, fellas.
You too. Thanks for calling, Eddie. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Funny Talk with Mongelli and Max. I'm Doug Max.
I'm Tom Mongelli. And our next show will be with Chips Cooney. In 2 weeks, we're on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month on Hamilton Radio 2. And
peace and love.
Peace and love. Hold on.